If your startup journey was made to become a TV show, in what category would you put it on StarzPlay?
I would get up in the middle of the night, sweating, heartbeat.
You know, midlife crisis could be a catastrophe.
6 more months and we're dead.
All what you need is a smile and a pitch deck.
If the startup is good enough for my money, why isn't it good enough for you to leave your job?
You keep on impressing me like there's no tomorrow. What do you know now that you wish you had known when you first started?
How difficult it was going to be.
Maybe sometimes it's better not to know. He started in telecom, survived consulting, and now he's partly to blame for why your kids won't put the iPad down. In a region that said no thanks to cable and jumped straight to streaming, one platform brought the drama and the football straight to our phones. He started as an engineer, then worked in big tech companies in Silicon Valley before co-founding a video-on-demand platform that changed how our region watches content. Meet the co-founder and CEO of StarzPlay, معاذ Sheikh. معاذ, lovely to have you here today.
Thank you so much, توفيق. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay, معاذ, let's go straight to the point. I always emphasize the value of starting early, but your story is a real proof that things can work at any age. You started at 44 while you are a father of 2. Please tell us the story of how things started.
So I think, like you said, توفيق, like a lot of people, I had the dream to do a startup. And having worked in Silicon Valley, I had been part of startups, but never started my own. So I'd worked for CEOs in Silicon Valley who started companies, and we saw successful exits, but never had the opportunity to start my own. And then for personal reasons, to be closer to my father, I came to Dubai, started a job. And then 10 years later, I found myself, in an 8-to-5 job, paycheck's nice, alhamdulillah, bonus is very nice. But there was something missing. And that something missing was the dream that I was carrying for a while, to start my own venture. So at 45, it was a little bit of a midlife crisis, that it's now or never. But like you pointed out, when you're 45 with family responsibilities, rents, school fees, it's not easy.
Yes.
And the risks are higher. But for me, it was now or never type of a thing. And I felt I had to do it, because otherwise, once you cross 50,
Yes.
people don't want to give you money
Yes,
for some
yes.
reason. Now,
mentioning your father again, tell us, please, how did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
So my father was an engineer. He worked in Dubai. You see on Sheikh Zayed Road, there's a Pepsi plant.
Yes.
And then there's Asil Ghee Factory, Unikai Ice Cream right behind it. He set that up. He was an engineer here. So I grew up in Dubai in 70s. So from 76 until 84, I was living in Dubai. I was going to school in Sharjah. So I grew up in Dubai and then spent part of my life in US and then came back here. But my father was a very important influence on my entire life. And it's perhaps his unfinished dreams that motivated me to start this, because he himself tried to start several ventures in his life, but with mixed success. So I felt like as a family or as a son, I had some unfinished business to start and build something.
Did this create the generational pressure on you?
Absolutely. You, especially as you get older, you feel you're running out of time, and you feel this burden on your chest that actually it was maybe 2 generations that in our family that tried to build businesses but weren't successful. And I felt like it needed to be tried and done again one more time.
So what were your biggest fears when you started, Muaz?
So the biggest fear, when you're 45 and you have kids is your own personal risk as an individual and professional is not very high because you have 20, 30 years of work experience. And even if something doesn't work out, you will always find a job.
You'll always have a plan B.
You always have a plan B in a way. But what you feel responsible for is dragging your family and your kids with it. So for me, it was not just my own kids, but my father, who was also alive at that time. He felt the pressure as well that I had a stable job and I left it, and I'm trying to do something on my own. And he wouldn't say this to me, but he would say to his other family members that, inshallah, everything works out for him. I know he's going through a lot. So I just felt that the whole family is being dragged into it, including my own kids.
So what was the moment that triggered the leap of faith?
I think it's a combination, right? I mean, you've done this yourself.
Yes.
But you started early,
Yes.
and you built something for 30 years, right? 25 years. And so for me, I think the combination was doing it for the family, doing it, proving something as a family. That was number one. I think second was that midlife crisis. And the third one was, I think professionally also you get to a point where you start to think to yourself, there has to be something more, right? Beyond just the job. And for me, it was all those things that came together. So on one hand, you have this courage, but on the other hand, I would get up in the middle of the night, sweating, heartbeat.
You mentioned a couple of times the word midlife crisis. Midlife crisis could be a catastrophe to many people.
Correct.
How Muaz took this midlife crisis that you always talk very nicely about it to bring you more determination into building your own business.
So I think, Tawfiq, I didn't start that way, but I think you don't really realize how strong or patient or resilient you are until you get to a point where there's no other choice, right? And I had quit my job. I'd left everything behind.
Wow.
So there was no other option but to keep going forward. And once you've invested your own capital and you've invested your partner.
Let me stop you here. Before you invest your time and capital, and this is very important because you want to tell the people who are listening or watching us today that everything starts with product or service validation.
Correct.
How did you validate your idea before you invest your time and capital?
The rule we used to use is me and my co-founder Danny. We would come up with our ideas, and then we would shoot them down ourselves. So if he's come up with an idea, I would question it, question the logic, question the market, and then we would shoot it down.
Nice.
And we had this routine where we went through lots of ideas. And then finally, this one checked all the boxes, especially the box that this is the industry we were in. So if we were going to go out and raise capital for it, it's like you now starting a retail business again, right? You'd get plenty of capital. Although we had never built a business from scratch, but we had been at OSN and we'd been there 10 years. So we knew the industry. So this is why we liked this idea. And then around it, we built an MVP before we started doing fundraising and before we went out in the market.
And how did you build the trust with your first clients or customers?
So this is where we were fortunate, and in the sense that we had been working in the industry, and myself and the team, we had contacts and existing relationships, and alhamdulillah, our first few deals were signed on the back of PowerPoint slides. We had not even launched the service, but we had enough credibility and relationships in the market, where we went with slides and we said, in 6 months, we're going to launch this service. We would like to do a long-term partnership with you.
So what was the hardest decision that you had to make during your journey?
So many, right? But in the beginning, I think...
a decision that really was able to somehow shape your success.
Correct. So I think very early on, what we realized, and I think this is perhaps a consistent lesson for perhaps all our listeners, it's that as much as we should have confidence in our ideas, belief in our vision, we also need the humility and flexibility to realize that we are not all Steve Jobs, right? We're not all Elon Musks, right? Inshallah, some of your listeners will become better than Elon Musk and better than Steve Jobs one day. But for most of us, we need to be flexible. We need to have that humility in our ideas. So the service you see today is not exactly the vision that me and my co-founder started with. Our initial idea was to build a hardware product, but then when we went out in the market, we found out that people had more appetite for a Netflix-like service rather than a box.
So talking about failures and setbacks, what was the setback that taught you the most, Maaz? And how did you really bounce from it?
So I remember very early in our days when we first launched the service, our business plan was to sign up 1,000 customers a day, new customers a day. And we were signing up 25, 26, and the number wouldn't change. Every day it was 24 and 26 between this. And this was after 7 or 8 months of work. So this was very, very challenging to see those numbers, to see all the hard work and all the risk you had taken, all the capital that was invested, and to see that humbling number every day. This was very challenging. And I think the key there was for us to pivot and adjust. We were signing up customers only on credit card. And, this is 10 years ago. And people just were not ready to use their credit card at that time. So we started to work with...
So that was your turning point?
That was our turning point.
So this is the turning point that took your project from, let's say, surviving to thriving.
Correct.
Okay.
And that the key pivot there, توفيق, was we moved from credit card to allowing customers to sign up through their mobile phones. So in UAE, you could use Etisalat mobile phone number, Do phone number to sign up. In Saudi Telecom phone number and Mobile phone number. And you could sign up and pay through your phone. So that did two things. One, as a startup, consumers need trust and confidence in your brand. And especially if you're an online brand, because you're not a brick and mortar physical brand. So, and if you're working with Etisalat, that's immediate trust, because that's a brand that they trust and they have confidence in. So if the customer feels I can pay through Etisalat, so that's a trust problem solver. The second thing it did is offered a method of payment alternative to credit card. So that was a turning point for us.
So mentioning Etisalat here brings me to the whole story of the startup funding that you went through.
Correct.
Unfortunately, lots of people believe that, pitching a business or selling a business is all what you need is a smile and a pitch deck. And actually, it's totally different story. It's much more complicated. How you're going to go and convince these investors about your project, and how you're going to convince them that you are the right partner for them. And at the same time, the selection process that you go through, whereby you are choosing strategic partners. Can you tell us about the story? How did it happen? How did the whole funding takes place?
Sure. So to your point, it's not just a pitch and a smile, like you said, right? Take Etisalat, for example, EN now. We had a commercial partnership with them in 2015 when we first launched the service. And it started as a small partnership, no commitment from Etisalat. 5 years later, after we proved ourselves, they started to do what, proper commitments to us, where they said, okay, we would buy in volume. So that's after 5 years of measuring and testing us. And then 8 years later is when they invested in us. So it's a very long...
We're talking about 420 million.
Correct.
From both Etisalat or E-End and ADQ.
Correct.
Okay.
But the Etisalat journey, to your point, was an 8 years journey of commercial, technical testing and proving ourselves. So especially organizations like Etisalat that are very measured and very responsible with their decisions, it's you have to prove yourself and you have to earn yourself. I think outside of that, a typical investor, whether it's venture capital or PE, I must have gone through 150 to 200 meetings in a period of 6 months to get to 2 investors to raise money in Series A. And I became a platinum member of Emirates flying economy.
Okay.
In 1 year. So that gives you an idea how much I was traveling. But yes, I think the most important thing in the pitch, in that investor pitch, is your credibility and trust.
That's true.
I see, the one common mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make is I'm doing my day job, but then I'm raising money on the side for my next startup because but the natural question there the investor will ask is, if the startup is good enough for my money, why isn't it good enough for you to leave your job?
The first question being asked always.
Always.
Always. Because they're investing also in the person.
Correct.
In the owner.
Correct.
So how did it take place, the acquisition? How long did it take in terms of negotiations? What value addition strategic partners gave to StarzPlay to be where it is today?
So very early on, we were fortunate to have a strategic investor, a studio from the very beginning. It's Lionsgate. They make movies like Hunger Games, John Wick. So they believed in us and they became a strategic investor. And then, of course, after 7 years, 8 years of journey, Etisalat took the majority and they are the lead strategic investor now. I think for a strategic investor, the big plus point for an entrepreneur is that they validate your business plan. Unlike a pure financial investor, so it's, for example, if I came to you with the next retail idea, having you as an investor is very different from having a pure financial investor, because you will validate my business plan and you will also tell me, معاذ, don't open here, don't expand in this market, don't go with this merchandise. So the value of a strategic investor for an entrepreneur is extremely high, and I highly recommend that. Now, the trade-off often with the strategic investor is, because they're a strategic investor, they will also want certain reserve matters or control of the business. And that's the trade-off in flexibility you need, right? And you have to live with their guidance as well. So if you had raised money from MAF, you would have to live with certain, guidelines from MAF. And so it's that balance of the value that the strategic investor provides and their boundaries that they want you to operate in. But for us, it was an extremely good combination of having a studio as well as a telecom group.
Okay, let's tell people, Muaz was in the domain of streaming services, standing there against big players like Netflix, Shahid, Disney Plus, and Prime. Now, where did you find difficulties in that moment? Yes, opportunity has been established due to COVID that really highlighted the opportunity. But at the same time, you are going against real big players. How were you able to get your market share and differentiate yourself
from
other suppliers?
So, especially during COVID, توفيق,
Yes.
it was a blessing
Yes.
and a curse at the
Yes.
same time, right? It was a blessing, توفيق, because we had been running a business for almost 5 years at that time. And 5 weeks during COVID, between February 15th and the end of March, we grew more in those 5 weeks than we did in 5 years before that. So we were growing incredibly fast. And that was the good thing. But at the same time, we were a business that was not making money. And so we could see every month we're running out of money. And
So your cash burn.
our cash burn. And to see that we're doing so well, but at the same time, we're burning money. And if the world doesn't change, because in February and March during COVID, it felt like
It's a never-ending story.
It's a never-ending story.
Yeah.
So you could not raise money. You could not grow your business with new investors. And so it was living with this duality. On one hand, the business is doing really well. On the other end, you could see and feel that 6 more months and we're dead.
That's true. Let's explain to the viewers about what is actually the revenue stream of StarzPlay, just for them to educate them a little bit about how the business operates.
So today we have 3 revenue streams. Our biggest revenue stream is subscription. You come to StarzPlay for UFC, for football, or for TV shows. You pay 40 dirhams a month, and you subscribe to the service. So that's 75% of our business today.
Okay.
And that was our business when we first started. But in last 3 or 4 years, we've expanded. And now we have advertising as well, which has become about 25% of our business now. So we have ads on our sports service. So if you're watching football or cricket, natural breaks, we put ads in it. So that business is growing. And the third business, توفيق, is it started as a means to pay the bills and reduce the burn, but it grew into a big revenue stream. Is the same technology we use for ourselves. We're beginning to license it outside the region.
Wow.
In India, in Malaysia, Indonesia, Egypt, Saudi. So we build technology platforms just like ours for other broadcasters and telecom companies around the world.
That's amazing. You keep on impressing me like there's no tomorrow. You know what impressed me the most? When I heard that all StarzPlay employees are shareholders. Now, tell me about it. Tell me about it before you tell the viewers.
So this was a personal sort of ambition, because I had been on the other side where I felt I had created a lot of value for my shareholders previously, and took businesses from extensive growth phase, but never to become a shareholder in that business. And that was painful. That was painful for me as an employee. And I felt that employees, it's financial, but it's also a matter of pride. Because when you make someone a shareholder, it becomes their company. And
معاذ, that's so inspiring. Now let me go back to day one. What do you know now that you wish you had known when you first started?
How difficult it was going to be. No, I think one of the
maybe sometimes it's better not to know.
Sometimes it's better to be simple and stupid and just keep going.
Exactly.
Naive. Maybe not stupid, but naive. Look, I think one of the things, we're both similar age, and you reflect on your life, and you do a cost-benefit analysis of your decisions, because so one of the things I think we underestimate is the toll this journey is going to take on people around you and your family. And that is perhaps the biggest lesson I learned, is if there was ways to balance that very early on, I would have done that differently.
Muaz, before we close, if your startup journey was made to become a show, a TV show, in what category would you put it on StarzPlay?
I would put it in comedy.
Comedy.
Because what we went through is full of comedy.
Exactly. Muaz, we heard a rumor that you nap in cinemas. Obviously, you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did today. You were incredible with us. Thank you for being with us and keeping us entertained on and off screen. Thank you so much, Muaz.
Thank you, توفيق, for
Thank
having
you for
me.
your
Thank
time.
you.